Welcome to Vaxa Bureau Intelligence Optimised, a podcast where we explore the frontier of critical industries across the Indo-Pacific through the lens of innovation, infrastructure, and sovereign capability. In today's episode, we're diving into a story that's as practical as it is powerful, because it's about something many of us take for granted: clean drinking water. Our guest, Shannon Lemanski, is from Aqua Ubique, a Queensland-based social enterprise that's reimagining how we deliver water by generating it directly from the air. But this isn't a story about new technology. It's about flipping the system, using smart, decentralised models to get clean, safe water to the people who need it most, without relying on trucks, pallets, or fragile supply chains. From army deployments in PNG to real-world impact in Cherbourg and Dumaji, Aqua Ubique is proving that better outcomes don't always require more complexity, just better thinking. This is a conversation about resilience, innovation, and the future of infrastructure in a changing world. Let's get into it. Shannon Lemanski, thanks for joining us. How are you, mate?
Legend, thanks for having me, Todd, and g'day everyone.
Mate, really appreciate you joining us. I've had the pleasure, obviously, of meeting you not too long ago, and was really enamoured by your mission and what you're doing with Aqua Ubique. And you're solving a critical problem in a very human way. Can you take us back to your deployment in PNG that you once told me about, and what you did? How did that experience catalyse what you're doing now and your mission?
Now, I suppose that's a really good place to start, Todd. So I spent 12 and a half years in the Army full-time before I transitioned out. And very early in my career, I was deployed to Papua New Guinea for the better part of 12 weeks, supporting an engineering contingent over there. And this is a job, or it's an exercise that happens every 12 months. We go over and rebuild schools and hospitals and barracks and other bits and pieces. And as part of this deployment that I was on, we were up in Lae. Now, the issue with the Lae is the tap water there, although it exists, it's not certified for drinking. And we had some healthies over there, and there was some issues with the tap water. And that meant that we had to drink bottled water. So supporting 100 soldiers, reasonably tropical climate, that generates a lot of plastic bottles. And there's no garbage service either, so that falls to me. So we crush the bottles, we take them down the tip. Now, I use the term tip really loosely. Realistically, I'm talking probably story and a half piles of burning garbage. So we're throwing these bottles out at the tip, these crushed bottles up at the tip. And the locals that live there, because they have no other option, they come up to us and, "Hey boss, can you not crush these bottles?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, they're rubbish. We don't need them. What do you need them for?" If we get these bottles uncrushed, it means that we can harness more rainwater for our kids and we don't have to give them dirty creek water. So that's a no-brainer. Go back and tell the rest of the contingent, "Right, guys, we're not crushing the bottles anymore. I'm going to take them up to the tip uncrushed." So fast forward 2 weeks. Because this job happens every 12 months, you grab the last 2 pallets of drinking water and you put it in a shipping container. It means you've got something to get started the next year. Fortunately, we hadn't needed the pallets from the year prior, but now they've expired. So because of the fact that I've got a number on the side of the bottle that says that we can't drink them, I'm now down the tip and I'm throwing out 2 pallets of completely unopened, still shrink-wrapped plastic bottles. Initially, the locals wouldn't touch them. They're like, "Nah, if these Australians in uniform on army trucks are throwing this stuff out, there must be something wrong with it." So I open a bottle, drink it in front of them. "Guys, there's nothing wrong with this. It's literally just the number says no." So that they think we're completely crazy. But then I get back to Townsville, where I'm stationed after the job's complete, and I'm talking to some of the senior soldiers. Now, "Oh yeah, that sounds very similar to what happened to us when we were in East Timor." So it was part of their interfet rotation. They were in a place called Batagade, and pallets of water would come through from the UN. And then a couple of days later, there'd be a letter that had come through saying, "Oh no, that pallet's expired. You've got to get rid of it." Unfortunately, in their instance, so at least for me, I could take it up to the tip and then throw it out and stick my fingers in my ears and walk away whistling. These guys got told, "No, you can't leave it out the back of the barracks and let it grow legs and run away, because that's too much of a health risk." So because it's a health risk, you have to not only slash the bottles. This is with a locally employed workforce in the barracks. You have to slash the bottles, and then you have to burn the plastic bottles, because that was their rubbish service. So the water insecurity issue, particularly in the Indo-Pacific and the near region, is a very, very real problem. I think it's in PNG, less than 30% of the population there have access to safe drinking water. So I'm in the process of getting out of the army, and I come across the technology that we now work with. It's called atmospheric water generation. And the beautiful thing about this technology is it generates water from thin air. So that's what we do. We take the humidity that's in the air, we condense it into drinking water, we filter it, we remineralize it, and it comes out as premium drinking water. So I came across this technology. I'm like, I know where this can have a life-changing difference in the near region. But just before we start dealing with the Indo-Pacific and the near region, I'll just double check, because Australia is a first world country, and surely we wouldn't have any issues at home, right? Wrong. So Todd, I don't know if I told you this previously. How many Australians today do you reckon don't have access to safe drinking water?
Oh, mate, I'm going to say, because we're a first world country, we're a democracy, we're fairly social, mate. Let's say 50,000.
Now, I wish the number was that low. Unfortunately, it's higher than 2 million.
What?
Yep.
Are you serious?
Sorry. Yep.
2
So
million.
over 8% of our population, if they turn on, so if there's a tap to turn on and if water comes out of it, and those are two massive assumptions, the water that could come out could be laced with arsenic, uranium, or E. coli. It's so brown that like I wouldn't bathe my 4-year-old in it. You'd boil it before you give it to a dog to drink. This water is just absolutely putrid. And I thought, oh yeah, and having done a bit of travel, I'm like, oh yeah, these will be like really remote regional communities, like little, like 1 or 2 people towns in the middle of nowhere. I know. So the closest community where I live anyway is Cherbourg. So that's
Brisbane.
Correct. That is less than 3 hours from Brisbane. Last year they were under a boil water alert for more than 9 months.
No, that's disgraceful.
Yep. So I'm actually headed out there next week as part of the impact project that we're working on. We can talk about that later.
No, God.
But so in Cherbourg, it is not uncommon to see babies, and this will be really heartbreaking for any parents, particularly anyone that's had little kids. It's not uncommon to see babies walking around with formula bottles that have soft drink, specifically Coke, in them. And the reason why, it's not an educational piece, it's the fact that in this town, bottled water is more expensive than soft drink. The locals don't trust the tap water because it's frequently unsafe to drink. So because of the fact that bottled water is more expensive than soft drink and you can't drink with tap water, if you're trying to give your baby a formula bottle, what do you do?
It's a problem.
Yeah.
Wow. Mate, it's crazy. It's interesting, mate. Just quickly back on PNG and Timor, we spent a lot of time up there over the last 30 years, providing logistics support to the ADF and the United States Navy, and they had I've got this one particular program called US Joint Pacific Accounting Command, the POWMIA program. So they never leave a man behind. They've got teams up in the bush, especially in New Guinea, all the time looking for downed aircraft, and we used to provide all logistics support. The US VET, which certifies all the food that any US DoD division or mission can buy from. They used to get their water from the Coca-Cola factory in Papua New Guinea. Well, this particular mission, we're organising all the water. The certification for that particular Coke factory expired 2 days before. There is nothing wrong with the water coming out of the Coke factory in Papua New Guinea, but the poor fellows on the ground said, we can't buy water. And they said, we know there's nothing wrong with it. It's crazy, but our rules say we can't buy it. So okay, well look, we'll work out another solution for you. And they've gone, look, it's okay. Our guys back in Hawaii have sorted something out for us. So what's that? They're sending a C-17 with a couple of pallets of water on it from Hawaii to Port Moresby, knowing though that there's perfectly fine drinking water, but because it didn't have the certificate had run out 2 days earlier, and not from the fault of the Coke factory, from the unfortunate occurrence that the auditors from US VET, there's only one in all of the South Pacific. She just couldn't get there. Couldn't fit it into the schedule.
Yeah, that's real.
Mate, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Anyway, mate, it's just really, it's really interesting how, you think you take it for granted, as we said earlier, that, people have got clean drinking water, especially in Australia. But the story you just told me then, that's terrible. So mate, why Aqua Ubique? What does the name mean? How does it reflect the DNA of your organisation?
I suppose that can be traced back to military as well. And pretty much every regiment you serve in, or every unit that you serve in, will have a motto of some description. So I started life in a engineering regiment, and both engineers and artillery have their motto is ubique. So that's where the ubique comes from. Ubique meaning ubiquitous, everywhere. Aqua, as most people would be aware, means water. So Aqua Ubique, water everywhere. So the tagline for the company is water for anyone, anywhere. And that's what we do.
Wow, that's fantastic. And mate, you mentioned earlier, most people think, of water as something that comes through a pipe or in a bottle for drinking water, that is. What's the shift in the mindset you're trying to create with your atmospheric water generation?
So 20 years ago, people would have thought that power comes out of the power point in the wall, and it comes from the cord that goes back to the coal-fired power plant, and that's the only way that you can get power. You generate it, you put it into the grid, you pull it out at the other end. So if you think of the shift, if you think about how that mantra has changed in the last 20 years, where solar panels have gone from these inefficient, expensive things that people only got to virtue signal, to now they're actually very much real world, can save you thousands of dollars off your power bill while reducing your environmental footprint. That's effectively the change step that we're now doing with water. Water is heavy. The water grid, when you think about it, is incredibly inefficient, because at the moment we get a really heavy resource. We filter it and purify it to drinking water standard. We put it in the end of a very old pipe. We push it through infrastructure that leaks. So we've just accepted the fact that there's 15 to 20% of it that's been lost in the pipe before it gets to your tap. But then when you turn on the tap in your house, how much water do you actually drink, as opposed to put through your washing machine or flush down the toilet or have a shower or put out onto the garden? And all of that other water that you're not actually using for cooking or drinking doesn't need to be purified to that standard. So why did we put tons of chemicals and push this water through that had to be drinking water standard to get there? How about we, at the point of need, generate water in the volumes that we need it, and at the purification levels that we need it for whatever the job is? And that's effectively what we're doing. So we start with water. So at the moment, the technology allows us to generate drinking quality water. So that's what we're doing. We're going to the point of most need, where there's people that don't have access to safe drinking water, and we're generating it exactly where it's needed.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now, mate, you're clear that this isn't a tech story, it's a business model story. Can you unpack that for me, and why you believe that the innovation lies in the commercial model and not the machine?
Cool. And that comes back to very much the business model for the company as well. So as we've discussed previously, this technology is not new. The actual machine that I've got's been around for about 18 onwards, and it hasn't taken off. So digging into that, going, right, so why if the tech is so incredible, and why has nobody ever heard about it? And it boils down to, what's the problem that it actually solves? So for anything to be commercially viable, you've got to work out who cares and who pays. And although kids that don't have access to water in Africa or PNG or Timor or even just up the road in Australia, although that is terrible, if you're not the individual that can't turn on the tap, let's be completely frank, you kind of don't care. And particularly in the middle of a cost of living crisis, one of the first things that will get cut is donations to charities. And people don't want to do it, but unfortunately that's just the reality at the moment. So to make this commercially viable, we needed to work out who cares and who pays. And the technology has been around for ages, but the people that need the technology can't afford it. And the people that can afford it don't necessarily need it. So how do you break that paradigm? And how do you break that paradigm, not so much in the I'm rattling the tin and I'm guilt tripping people into donating, because that only works so long. How do I set up a real world commercial value proposition where it's better for you, better for the planet, and building better communities, which is what we do. So better for you in the sense that the water is healthier and it's cheaper. How is it better for the environment? Because there's no plastics and there's no transport emissions, and then building better communities. And the environmental aspect is good. The community aspect is good, but to actually get the target customer care, you need to save them money. So that's how we've positioned the product. Rather than here's the thing, buy the thing will change your life. We go after anyone that has a 15-litre office water cooler. So where we find particularly those small business owners, because that's where we're predominantly finding them, we go, hey, we've got an alternate to the office water cooler that you currently have. And not only will it get rid of the delivery guy and having to stack up all the bottles and having the girl in the office have to pick up that bottle and put it on the water cooler. So delete all of that. It'll generate the equivalent of 30 bottles a month of water. And we'll only charge you for 10.
Wow.
So that's a saving of like up to $2,500 a year. And in so doing, you then got healthier water for your staff. It's got more minerals. It tastes better. It's helping your environmental footprint because it's eliminating plastic bottles and the transport emissions. And you can know that for every 5 machines that we deploy, we're putting one in a community. So you're directly helping fund the work that we're doing in community to get these machines into the areas that they really need to go.
Oh, mate, that's wonderful. You're solving multiple problems, especially in places like Cherbourg and Lemanski where you've been working. And they're very different communities with very different challenges. What do you see the common thread that's tying them together?
And with this as well, so whenever people come across the technology, the thinking previously has been, how big's the box? How much can the box generate? And it boils down to, it's not just about the box, it's about the problem that it's solving. So whenever we're talking to people, it's where are you? How much water do you need? And what's the current solution that you're doing? Because this tech, similar to solar panels were 20 years ago, this tech does not solve all things to all people yet. It will soon. We're doing some deep tech work that it will very soon, but it's not to that point yet.
Yeah, right.
So therefore, it's a question of where are you and how much do you need?
Yeah, right.
And in these different communities, different locations, therefore, different humidities, different social structures, different tribal wines. I realistically a different water problem as well. Some of it's E. coli, some of it's uranium, some of it's just water access. So in the case of Lemanski, and you were saying that story earlier about how the C-17 was used to fly water bottles into the Americans. That's actually happening in Lemanski.
Yeah.
So it's not coming out of Hawaii, it's coming out of Cairns, but Lemanski gets cut off for months at a time during the wet season. And therefore from the Queensland Disaster Recovery Fund, there's planes being used to fly water bottles and other foodstuffs into the IGA at Lemanski so the town doesn't run out of food and water.
Mm. Yeah.
So it's really digging into those problems, working out what the underlying restriction is. Like, is it a water problem? Is it a power problem? Is it a both problem? And then scaling the portfolio approach to go, okay, how much of this needs to be drinking water as opposed to water for gardens or showers or whatever else, and solving those nuanced problems that change from community to community.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, because like you said, you could use grey water to water the gardens. You don't need to be, using valuable drinking water. In a situation like that, especially where there's a lack of water. But
I think you mentioned as well. So what's the common thread? In a lot of these communities, people just aren't listened to. When you sit down, you have a yarn with a bunch of these communities, they know exactly what the problem is. And they've got a pretty good understanding of how to solve it as well. And there's a lot of good people that are doing a lot of good work in these areas. They just don't necessarily have all the funding that they need to do the work that they need to do. So particularly going into these First Nations communities, and everything in these communities as well moves at the speed of trust. So we don't ride into town being like, here's the solution, we're going to fix all the problems. It's finding people that are already working in these communities and then amplifying the work that they're already doing. So one of the partners that we're working with, Indigenous Futures Foundation, they get food out of Coles and Woolworths that would have been destined for landfill. They put it through a commercial kitchen, and they turn it into frozen meals. So because of the fact that these guys were working on the food security bit, we're now working on the water security bit with them in the communities that they were already working in.
Geez, that's amazing. If you got value out of today's episode, hit subscribe and share it with someone in your network who thinks ahead. We want your feedback. What topics do you want us to cover? And who do you want to hear from next? Leave us a review or message us directly at Vaxa Bureau. Until next time, stay sharp, stay aware, and stay one step ahead.